Hello, my name's Jeremy Lazarus. I'm a sports psychologist and I'm here to help you to improve your race psychology. There's various points I want to make today. The first thing I want to talk about, and probably the most important thing to do, is to set goals. So the most important thing is to set goals both for if you think of the big picture, in other words, why you're doing the triathlon or whichever sport you're doing, what's the purpose, what do you actually want to achieve by doing it? And secondly, it's important to set goals for each individual training session, particularly with endurance sports such as triathlon or cycling or running. It's important that when you go into every single session, you make the most of it. And the best way to do that is to know exactly what you want from that session. You can make most use of your time, whether it's in the gym or in the swimming pool, and therefore you get the most benefit from it. And the second point I'd like to make, and it's linked to the first point, is not only should you have a goal for your particular sport, it's also important to have, if you like, a goal beyond the goal. In other words, what's the real purpose of doing that? One of the things I've found when working with athletes, and certainly one of the things that one of my mentors has said to me, is that the single most important reason for people not achieving their goal is because they don't have a goal beyond the goal. And generally, if people have enough reasons, they'll do just about anything. So if the reason for you to achieve your particular sporting goal is that's going to help you in other areas of your life, then that's going to be more motivating to you than if you just have a simple goal to, let's say, complete the marathon with nothing beyond that. The third point is to be organised. It's really important both before training sessions and before the individual event that you are very organised, that you've got everything you need so that you can absolutely focus on the things you need to do, the performance, rather than thinking, have I brought my water, have I got a change of kit, etc. So be organised, and if it means making lists, then make lists. And the fourth point, and this is particularly relevant for endurance events, is to remember it's a choice to do it. No one's forcing you to do a triathlon or a marathon or anything like that. It's your choice. So when the going gets tough, and it will get tough, particularly in training and in tough competitions, remember you're choosing to do it. Fifth point is to remember that if you don't get the results you want, that's just feedback. It's not failure. So some people think, oh, because I haven't succeeded, therefore I've failed, or even worse, that I am a failure. And that can be quite a negative thing to think. So if you can just bear in mind that, firstly, it takes an immense amount of courage to do any kind of sport, particularly endurance events such as triathlons or marathons. And then also that regardless of the result you get, that you can learn from that. So if you don't happen to perform the way you want, take that as a learning experience, take the good points from there and also take the bad points and improve on the bad points. So you use it as an asset for future races rather than a stick to beat yourself up with. And another point is to mentally rehearse or visualize the race itself. Now, obviously with an event that may take 2, 3, 5 hours, you can't necessarily visualize the whole race in normal time, but you may want to speed up the event, and in your mind that is, and certainly you can visualize certain key elements. So if there's a certain part of the race which you know may give you trouble or anxiety, mentally rehearse that. Mentally rehearse you doing it well in different scenarios. So maybe there are other competitors by you, maybe it's a choppy water, maybe it's a warm hot day, or even a cold icy day. Mentally rehearse in different situations in your mind each time, completing it the way you want to complete it. So therefore you can go into the event being really prepared, not just physically but also mentally. You're prepared for just about anything that could happen. Another point is to be able to distract your mind, particularly with endurance events. So it may be that as you're going along you may have, let's say, some discomfort in your foot or one of your muscles, for example. It's important that firstly you recognise the difference between the sort of pain that's normal in the given event compared to pain which means it's dangerous and you need to stop. So that's a really important point. Assuming it's just normal discomfort and pain that's part and parcel of competing, then there are various things you can do, and each person will be different. One way of doing it is to keep in mind the picture that you've got in your head, or perhaps the sound you're going to be hearing when you've actually achieved the event. Maybe it's the crowd cheering, maybe it's your partner congratulating you, maybe it's the look on your partner's face when they smile at you. Whatever it is that's actually really motivating you to do this event, keep that in mind. Another way, if for example you have certain discomfort, and remember that this needs to be discomfort discomfort that's okay to carry on with, as opposed to something that you need to actually stop the competition, is to perhaps notice exactly where it is in your body and perhaps move it. So we can move pain and discomfort from one part of our body to another. And it's just a way to distract your mind from actually thinking about the discomfort. I've heard of one very successful athlete, who counts how many times he has thoughts of "my leg hurts," and at one point he got to 76. So again, you can play games with yourself, and as long as your performance is good and that your body is actually holding up to the competition, just keep going. And as I say, find the way that's right for you. And confidence is another issue which I think is really, really important when competing. So it's completely natural to feel nervous before a race. So imagine standing on the starting line. Many people feel, a few butterflies, for example. And I think it's important to distinguish the difference between normal and useful adrenaline and butterflies on one hand, and on the other hand, if you're overly nervous. If you do find that you're overly nervous, there are a couple of things you can do. Firstly, you can breathe differently. So by managing your breathing and breathing in a way that you would normally do, that will then have an impact on other parts of your physiology and you'll feel more relaxed. Another way to manage your confidence on the starting line is a particular technique which I've used many times with both sports people and non-sports people, so business people, for example. And it takes a little bit of preparation. It takes about 10 minutes to do, and you can do this in the privacy of your own home or wherever you want to do it. What you do is you think about a time when you felt really confident, a specific time. And as you relive that time, as opposed to think about it, you must relive it. As you relive that time, when you're really feeling that confidence from that previous event, you can do a simple movement such as, for example, this. Or you can say a word to yourself or have a picture in mind that links those feelings with this particular movement or that word or that picture. And if you do that a few times, then as you come to the race, when you're standing on the starting line, if you find that you're feeling overly nervous, you can do that movement again or say that word to yourself or have that picture in your mind. And that will take you back to that time when you felt confident. And I think the final tip I'd like to give you, and this is slightly unusual, but I think you'll appreciate it, is, see many people say to me, "Jeremy, sometimes when I'm racing, either before or during, I have this little voice which is saying negative things to me. Things like, you're not good enough, or you won't finish, or you're going to come last, or you're not as good as so-and-so." I don't know if you may have something like that. If you find that you're saying something to yourself which is not useful, one thing you can do is to say those words inside, but with a different tone. So, for example, if you said it in Donald Duck's voice, or Mickey Mouse, or you said it in a sort of slow, sexy drawl, or something like that, or play some circus music as those words are playing, what you find is that you can't take that phrase or those words seriously. Okay, so it just makes you laugh, and you just kind of put that to one side and then move on. So that's pretty much it. I've given you, I think, quite a few tips to help improve what you do both before and during the race. If you want to find out more information, then there's a couple of things you can do. There are various sports psychologists up and down the country and indeed internationally. I personally am based in the London area, so feel free to contact me. And there's a book I've written called Ahead of the Game. It's written for coaches and athletes of all sports at all levels, so feel free to buy this. You can get it from my website, which is www.thelazarus.com, or it's available on Amazon.